Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Ingrid from the Custom Quilter. Today we are going to finally sew. I have a few tips to give you before we start, so let's get rolling and take all day. First off, we are going to mark the pattern with directional arrows for pressing to make it easier when you're actually sewing and putting your quilt together. And right here is what I mean. The first block of every row is going to go one way, either this way or this way. So I mark one going this way, and then the next page I'll mark arrows going this way. And then the first block, I press all the horizontal rows up of the first block, and then the next block down, up, down, up. That way when you put your blocks together, your seams will nest. All right, so that's the first tip. Second tip is picking a thread color. I don't care about thread color. I just normally use a tan or a gray color. It doesn't really matter to me. I'm using a 1.8 stitch length. 1.5 is too small. If you mess up, then you'd be all day over here trying to pick that out. Test your 1/4 inch seam. Please, please, please. You want to make a little test. There's plenty of YouTube videos on how to do that. I'm not going to be worried about that. There's plenty of YouTube videos to watch on testing your seam. Adjust it and get it correct. I have had to move my needle over twice if you have that feature, because if you have starched, your seams are a little bit thick, so you want to use a scant 1/4 inch and test that with starch fabric that you're going to use in your pattern. Don't test your seam without the starch and then start sewing with starch. Once you get that seam nice and accurate, then sew your first block and see how that comes out. I still get wonky blocks. You'll see. I'll do a few for you, but the more pieces you have, the more wonky it's going to be. The blocks with fewer pieces, those tend to come out just enough for me to square it up correctly. So you'll find out if you cut correctly, if you sewn correctly, it'll show up real quick, especially in a block with not too many seams in it. Okay, so the next thing, chain piecing and pressing. All right. Chain piecing like you do in a normal quilt is not possible in this quilt. Not where you can just go and go and go and go and go. You can chain piece a little bit within the block, and I will show you how I do that. But you gotta be paying attention and stay on the one block, please. Bought sense is better than told. You'll be ripping seams with that little bitty stitch length, and you're gonna be over here cussing. That brings me to, I think I've only cussed one time in these videos. You might hear a few more cuss words in this one, because if I make a mistake, I normally do cuss, but I don't use really harsh ones. But just hang in there with me. All right, here we go. Okay, now we have our pattern marked. We have our pieces glued, and I have done a little bit of sewing on this block, but I'll show you how I chain piece. I don't even know if you can call it chain piecing, because there's not very many pieces to do it. Okay, so I pick it up in the order that it is on the board, and it's already glued. So this one, this one, this one, and I've gotten to the point where I can do most of the block, but I started out with one row, then I added another row and another row, but I'm gonna start off with this first row and show you what I do. Make sure you look to see, before you start sewing, look to see where you glued, because if you glued on both ends, you don't want to sew both ends shut. And I did not set up my 1/4 inch. Then when I'm done with my pieces, I pick up the first piece, keep that at the top, and I put it down like this. This is the first piece I sewed. This is the last piece. I have my little scissors. I got my pattern over here so I can see what I'm doing. I turn it the right way, and on my pattern, all my seams at the top are going to be on this row, will be going to the left. So when I pick this up, the ones I've already sewn are already going to the left, so that gives me a clue. I'm just going to finger press. Make sure you fully open your seams because you have glued, and if you have glue that's past your seam allowance, then your piece will be too short. So open it up fully and lay it back just like the pattern shows. Okay, then I cut the next piece off. Look at my pattern. On this row, my seams will be going the opposite way. You can look here and see where they're going on the first row and just put it down. Okay, then the next one, they're still on this row. Seams are still going that way. And you put that down just like it has it on the pattern so you don't get lost. And you pick up the next ones that you're going to chain piece. I'm just going to do all of them that are ready to be sewn. Got all of these. I'm going to take them just like this and take them to your machine. Check to make sure I'm not sewing the wrong side. That one, I didn't need to pick up that one. It's not even glued. I do that from time to time. And I did it again. What is happening today? I think they were on top but not glued. Top of each other. Alright, again, we are going to pick up the first one. Keep it in order. Clip the first one. Put it on the board just like our pattern has it. Make sure you turn your seams the correct way. These are going this way. So this one, you're going to make go this way. Naturally, it wants to go this way where you don't have any seams. I don't care. I make it go the way I need it to nest. You do it how you want. We're on to the next row. You make your seams go the opposite way. All right, so now we're on to the second stage. Wrong way. Let's see. I may have put these the wrong way. Goes this way. And because you've starched, finger pressing is easy. It'll stay that way. If you press them the wrong way, just fix it. All right. So now, if you want, you can press it on here, take it to your wool mat right next to it. It's best if you have like a little nest here. I've got my machine over here to the left, my cutting mat, and my pressing mat, all where I can turn like this. All right, so next, if you want to keep glue basting, you go through the process, how we showed on the last video, to glue baste. If not, you just pick up your pieces, put them together, and sew without glue basting. Sometimes I do that, but I really like to go through and glue baste. Yep. And since we've pressed the correct way, all we have to do is butt up our seams, press it down, and you can set it if you want to, but this holds together well enough that you can just sew it if you want. Y'all forgive me, I'm a little bit nervous. It usually goes a lot smoother when I don't have people watching me. Make sure you're putting your pieces on square as you can. No matter how hard I try, how accurately I cut, how accurately I sew, some blocks are just going to be wonky. Just accept it and move on. All right. So we're going to pick them up in order again. This time this one, this one, this one, and this one. Make sure you check, make sure you're sewing the correct seam. Now on these long pieces like this, I've glued this side. The reason why I say to check to make sure you're sewing the right side is because if you sew this side and you open it up, it's not going to be right when you go to put it on your board. And it's nice not having pins to worry about. Alright, pick it up and take it to the board. Finger press. All right, now we're finally gonna have to press up or down. On our pattern, this block, this is the block we're working on, and this arrow is pointing down. So that's the way I want to finger press my seams. But the piece I'm getting ready to put in is this piece right here. If it didn't have a seam here on the end, say there was a piece up and down, it wouldn't matter which way I pressed up or down, but what you're trying to get is all the seams on the outsides of your block on this side and this side. You want those going in the same direction, down. So when you add this block to this block, which the seams are pointing up, those seams will nest. But if you're pressing seams up somewhere in the middle here and there's no seam on the side, you can press it any way you want. I just normally keep to whatever I have drawn here to make it easier on myself. So this one, we're going to press down because there's an outside seam here, right here. Press your seams fully open. This one's down. Let's see. I really push these seams open. All right. All right. So now you do the process again until you get the whole block done. So let's do it again. Sometimes with these little long skinny rows, I won't glue baste if there's a whole lot of seams in here and they need a little bit of fudging. I'll pin, but most times I glue. And I usually don't glue when I put blocks together. I always pin. But when I do glue, I nest the seams together, just like that. Try to keep it as straight as you can. The glue holds it in place long enough for you to press it. All right, and then we're off to the next round. Almost there. All right. And we're going to put all these together. Press this first. A little bit flatter. Okay, now I hope y'all can see this is not square and then not exactly straight on, you know, perfectly straight here, but you can either trim that, but be careful when you trim because you may trim off too much and it ends up your block is gonna be too small. You don't want that. I have had to add fabric to one block because I refuse to make it again. Add fabric to the edge. Okay, now here's a spot where the seams aren't going the same way right here. And then we don't have any other seams to match up here. So match these up. And we only have one seam to match up here. And when you're nesting, you can feel it. You know, you guys know how to do that. And you can see I'm not being real delicate or anything. That starching really helps to keep things from stretching all out of shape. All right, let's get this on. Make sure you're sewing the right side. I'm not backstitching because this block is the, I think, 4th block in the row. And it's not going to be on the outside, so I'm not worried about that. If the edges of the block are going to be on the outside of the quilt, I backstitch those stitches. Or I'll wait until I'm done with the quilt and stay stitched all around the whole quilt in the seam allowance. All right. And we got one more seam to go. Let me see, make sure I got this right. All right, now what I just told y'all not to do, I just did. All right. This right here, these 2 rows, I got this row turned around. Luckily I didn't cuss on that one. This one is correct. I'm glad y'all got to see that because I do that sometimes. And you will too, trust me. If you make it through a whole quilt without doing that, you good. Alright, so now you get to see me seam rip. I can get my son to fast forward this so you don't have to watch this. And shout out to my son Austin who edits all my videos. Lord, y'all don't want to watch a video of me without editing. So he is the man, Mr. Techie. We call him Scooter. People don't even know his real name is Austin. We've called him Scooter so long. And a shout out to my son Miles, who bought my ring light when I said I was going to start doing it. They just are really supporting me doing this. I don't know how long I'm going to be doing this. I'm doing it to get more people going on pixel quilts. I think they are awesome. They are challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so hard that it's impossible to do. And you have something that's unique when you're done. Now, if you had this at a 1.5, you still be trying to pick them stitches. 1.8 is just about the right stitch length to hold everything together without being too tiny. All right, so now you get to see, if you need to take it apart, how the glue behaves. All you have to do, you don't want to stretch it way out of shape, but it just comes right off. All right, now I need to get this shit on the right way. Here, here. That's what I should have done. I'm interested to know who else cusses when they quilt. I'm not a super bad word like the F's and the MS and all that, but I will throw out a son of a B. My son told me when I won the Best in Show at Grome's where I live, and when I came back home and told him, he said, so all them son of a bees in there in that quilting room paid off then. So that's how I got my name for my channel, The Cussing Quilter. I'm gonna give him credit for that. And my baby. Alright, let's try this again. Got it the right way now. One more press. And now y'all see how raggedy these edges are? And I have cut accurately and sewn accurately as much as I can. I mean, when I'm cutting, I really try to pay attention. My sewing might not be as great, but my cutting usually is. Alright, finally, we have reached the end. Most of our seams nested. And all of the edge stitches are going down. So on the next block, when we get ready to put that together, if we got all those going up, everything will nest on these sides. All right, y'all see how raggedy that is on the sides, the edges? But my points match. All my points match, that's important. But it's not critical. You will still get a good image if your points don't match. All right, so I'm doing the large size, which has 8.5-inch blocks. I have an 8.5-inch ruler, and I'm going to start in this corner with my diagonal. Okay. And I'm gonna, you don't want to go too much this way, too much this way, too much this way, or this way, because when you put your next block on, you may have to move your seams to get the seams to match, and you'll end up getting a tuck if you've cut too much off the top or the bottom. I have done that too. All right, so in order to not do that, when you're lining up this diagonal line, you want to put it right at an intersection and all the intersections going this way. That way the block is centered. All right, so let's see, let me do a little bit like this. And I'm using this new Guggenheim things I got the sale on, these little blades. They work pretty good. I don't know if they're all that. We'll see how long they last. They cut pretty good, but endurance blades are my favorite so far still. I'll work with that a little bit more and see how I like it. All right, so that's our block. And then it's all nice and square, perfect. Then we're gonna take the blocks that we have already done and put them over here. Do you see me? Make sure you don't have it upside down. Like that. All right. Make sure you don't have this upside down. Looking at my pattern. There. You can look at the last one. And this is what I want to do, is put these together. And normally I just pin these. And you have trimmed them to exactly the right size, so you should not have any problems matching up anything. In the previous row, the seams were pressed up and these were down, so everything is nesting beautifully. Except for that one. But I'm not going to turn it. I'm going to leave it just like it is. This one is nesting. And we're going to go sew this. And if you see me sew over a pin, don't faint, because I do. 9 times out of 10, I never hit a pin, but I have and scared myself. I behave after that, for a while anyway, and I just start going over them again. Alright, so that was our thick seam right here, where they're both going the same way. No problems at all. And you'll see how well they press open. Now on this seam, if you want to press open, then press open. I don't press open anywhere on my quilts. Alright. Now, on the pattern, all of the seams are going, the seams in between here, these, when you put these two blocks together, this whole row, those seams are pressed that way. So that's what I'm going to do. And there's so much starch that I don't even have to iron that. It's ready to go. And I'll put it back on the board. Put it back the right way. All right. You put it back on the board. You can see that? Back on the board the right way. All right. There's a few things I wanted to talk about when you're piecing the block. Don't be too crazy about squaring up different sections. You don't get too hung up on that. Just make sure your seams match and then square up the entire block. Now, if one row is really off and it's jagged, then I will straighten that out or make it a little easier to put together, but don't get too hung up on doing each section. That's just gonna drive you crazy after a while. Make sure you check color placement as you go. Remember when I caught this piece flipped the wrong way? You have to make sure that you're checking as you go. I end up checking when I'm making the boards, when I'm sewing and I put back on the boards, when I'm squaring up to make sure it's not flipped the wrong way. You kind of just do it naturally without consciously doing it, but you want to make sure, because you don't want to get way down here and you sewn all these rows together and you notice, oh, her eye's not right. Something don't look right. You got to go back and take all that out. When you're putting stuff on the board or sewing it together and you notice this color doesn't look as dark on your fabric, or this color looks dark and it's supposed to be, this color's dark and it's supposed to be light. Pay attention. Make sure you check your colors and your placement, because you may have the wrong piece there. You may have colors switched in your bag. My very first quilt, I had to take out like 9 blocks because I had 2 fabrics swapped. And I didn't notice until I was like the 4th row in, and it was on like the 2nd and 3rd row. So I had to go back and unstitch the whole row, then unstitch the blocks that were next to each other, and then unstitch the block. It almost broke my spirit. I almost quit, but I got it together. Another tip right here, I have all the fabrics. These are from all my quilts. I just keep putting colors up there. But I do have a Kona color card with all the colors in it. It's like $49-50. Well worth the money if you're gonna use Kona colors for all your quilts or whatever, and you want to order more fabric. But when Erin Cotton Candy CT Fabric on Etsy, when she sends me my labeled fabric, I also write in the selvage what color it is before I wash it in a permanent marker and put it in the washer. So when I take them out of the washer, I still know. If you don't want to do that, then cut a piece like this and put it over here. But I'm telling you, you will mix up fabric if you don't keep track of those colors from the time you get them to the time you cut them to the time you use them, because some of these colors are really close together. Like, let's see, pewter and medium gray and smoke and, well, not grizzly, but zinc. All 3 are really close. And if they don't have colors on them, words on them, you don't know what you're getting. So please keep track of your colors. We squared up the block. We sewed the blocks together. When you are putting together your block and the outsides aren't matching, or something is where you need to fudge to the inside of the block, because the outsides can be raggedy. Who cares? You're going to trim all that off anyway. Fudge to the inside. Make sure the inside pieces that you're putting together are square on. What else? Some questions people ask. How long does it take? On my first quilt, I timed myself on one of the blocks with the most pieces, and it was 35 minutes. When I get all my fabric together, it's usually 14 fabrics that I use. I write all the names of the fabric in the selvage with a permanent pen. Let me show you what I use. If I can find it real quick. This is what I use. It is a Pentel gel roller for fabric, the medium tip. And it works really well. It doesn't smear. It doesn't come off in the wash. It doesn't make a mess on your fabrics. I write the name of the fabric in the selvage, and then I wash. It takes me 3 days to wash and starch all my fabrics. I don't rush. I just take my time, and I don't have 2 racks to hang everything on, so I do it in 2 batches. So it's 3 days for me to I make sure that they're square, because when I'm cutting my strips, I don't want elbows. But if you do get elbows, the pieces are small, so you don't have to use those elbows. You can cut that part out. But I like to use as much fabric as I can because fabric is expensive. I make sure when I'm ironing it that I iron it square. So 3 days to wash and starch everything, and then 3 days to cut. I'm not rushing myself. That's just how long it takes me. It'll probably take you less time. 35 minutes a block. It's like 65 hours average for the whole quilt. My first quilt took me a month and 10 days, and I was on it like a beast. It was like crack. So I really worked on it every day. But you can set a goal if you're not in a hurry. Do 2 blocks a day. That's an hour. Or if you want it to be a long-term project, do 1 block a day, or however, set yourself a goal of how many blocks that you want to do a day. The second quilt took a month and 20 days. The third one, 5 months, 25 days, because I put it up for a while. I was just sick of it. I get sick of it kind of like around halfway. About row 6, I'm like, oh Lord, I need a break. So I always have some hand quilting that I do in the living room, watch TV. I take a break, work on that. When I get sick of working on this, I quit. I stop because I'm gonna make a mistake and I don't want to rip out. So then when I'm calmed down, I'll come back, start on it again. But I've kind of developed a system, and now I don't get so sick of it. This one, it's been 30 days and I'm a little bit over halfway. So we'll see how it goes. It'll probably be 2 months. Well, maybe not, since I'm doing videos and stuff. We'll see. But I wanted to encourage everybody, if you're afraid to try it and you're an at least intermittent quilter, that's what I am. Just try it. I mean, well, it's just fabric. I knit also, and I watercolor, and I was so scared of making socks when I was knitting, and some stuff happened in my life, and I was like, I'm just gonna try it. It was so easy, and I was scared for nothing. So you're gonna be scared for nothing. It's straight line sewing. The biggest thing with this is just to be organized and take your time. I'm just encouraging everybody to work on these and just try it. It is so rewarding. I think this is an excellent program. I plan to make all of my grandchildren and my children one, but I'll do a pixel quilt, and then I'll do another kind of quilt, a regular piecing or applique or whatever, and then I'll do another pixel quilt, because I did 2 in a row, and that was a little bit too much because it requires quite a bit of focus to keep everything straight. Just stick with the process and you can do it. That's all I got today. I'm starting to ramble, so good luck everybody, and I want to see what you do. I'm excited to talk to more people about it. So, yay. Hang in there. See you next time.